Yo guys, welcome to this elder fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto revealed his heritage and got banished? Part 3. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. 2 days had passed, and the feudal lord had arrived to approve or deny Tsunade's raise to Hokage. Since this was such an important meeting, the civilian council was not present, namely because the feudal lord refused to start the meeting with anyone that didn't have any real say on the matter. Those that were present were all the Jonin clan heads, Tsunade herself, and the old fossils that make up the advisors and elder council. The people of Konoha, I applaud your quick response to finding a replacement for the late Hiruzen Sarutobi. However, before I approve of Tsunade's ascent to Hokage, is there another candidate for the position? The Fire Lord asked. Damn it, without the civilians here I don't have a chance for enough votes to other through Princess Tsunade. Although even if they were here, the Jonin Council and their dislike of my way of doing things, not to mention whatever that snake found, I never stood a chance this time around. Danzo fumed before speaking up in a defeated manner. No my lord, there is no one else. Shikakunara narrowed his eyes. What's his game? I'm positive he would have put his name forward. Well, this is a surprise. I thought you'd nominate yourself like you did when Minato and Orochimaru were candidates. Nonetheless, what does the Jonin Council say about Tsunade becoming your Hokage? The old man said, clearly getting bored. Aside from her self-destructive tendencies, we approve of her to become the 5th Hokage. The Jonin commander, Shikaku said with a smirk, seeing Tsunade with a vein pulsing on her forehead at the stab to her drinking and gambling habits, even though she knows she won't be able to gamble as much as aside from the lottery. Very well. The Fire Lord said as he turned to the blonde in the room. Your coronation will be held tomorrow. Yes my lord, I will be ready. Tsunade said with a bow. Excellent, now I can secretly support Naruto's family, and I don't think I'll be the only one doing so. Now then, is there anything else that requires my attention, or can it wait till Tsunade is sworn in? The ruler of the Land of Fire asked, hiding a small yawn behind his fan. Ibiki nodded. There is something that requires all of our attention. Oh? What would that be, Mr. Marino? Mr. Shijimi asked with intrigue. The head of the T&I division pulled a scroll that had the elders sweating and made Danzo's lone eye narrow. This is a scroll that implicates all 3 elder council members of high treason against Konoha and the Land of Fire as a whole. Danzo has his own personal army that Lord Third commanded be dissolved and has kept running from the shadows, and after an investigation, my department has learned that the other 2 elders have been monetarily supporting this army known as Root. Together all 3 have been using their power and influence to undermine the previous Hokage since Lord Sarutobi took office for the first time. However, the most damning piece of evidence is this piece is something my subordinate managed to intercept a missive between Danzo's Root and a minion of our greatest traitors, Orochimaru. It has information that they were working with the Snake Sannin during the exams and invasion by letting him and his forces through our defense barrier without alerting the entire village, which allowed him to kill Sarutobi and give Sasuke Uchiha his curse mark. This is preposterous. Where is your subordinate now? Bring them before us to back up this story. Kaharu Utatane, the only female elder. I can't, you sent her on a suicide mission under false pretenses. The official mission was to take out a kid with extraordinary chakra levels and skill that is unaffiliated with any village, but you 3 used that as an excuse to get rid of her because of her former connection with Orochimaru, using Danzo's Root to kill her. Turns out the boy she was sent to kill ended up saving her life and treated her wounds and was able to learn that realized she was deceived. She is currently recovering in the Land of Waves under the care of one of our former clients. Ibiki snarled. You abused your power to not only remove one of our best Kunoichi from the Anbu ranks, simply because she requested time to grieve for the loss of her fiancé, who died during the month-long break of the Chunin exams after the invasion was dealt with. Then you once again abused your power by sending Special Jonin Anko Mitarashi on the aforementioned mission. Is all this true, you 3? The feudal lord demanded in a rare moment of seriousness. Seeing there was a small chance to save the situation, Danzo decided to speak up. My lord, we relieved Anbu Cat from her duties because she chose to make her request for a leave of absence at a time when we required every shinobi and Kunoichi on hand to guard and help rebuild the village after such a devastating attack. The fact that she also left the village to accompany Jiraiya as an added escort for a family of civilians that were close to our fallen Jinchuriki helped in our decision that she was unfit to be a part of Anbu any longer. As for Special Jonin Mitarashi, she is a serious risk to the village, especially with Orochimaru's curse mark on her neck unsealed. For all we know, the 2 of them could be using their shared snake summons to send information to each other. Firstly, Ibiki was correct about former Anbu Cat. Only the Hokage has the authority to remove Anbu from duty. As for Special Jonin Mitarashi, I was under the impression she had an immense hatred for Orochimaru. I even received word that she even attempted to fight her former sensei in the Forest of Death during the second stage of the exams after discovering that he had infiltrated them. The feudal lord said sternly. Speaking of, you have yet to deny your involvement in the traitor's infiltration. Nor that you denied a direct order from Hokage to dissolve Root. The Warhawk simply scowled and prepared to use Shisui's stolen Sharingan to use the Eyes Game Jutsu, the Kodamatsukami, which allows the user to enter the mind of any individual within their field of view and manipulate them by giving them false experiences, making it seem as if they were doing things of their own free will. It is regarded as a Game Jutsu of the highest caliber due to the victim being entirely unaware that they are being manipulated. Unfortunately for him, Hiashi Hyuga noticed the buildup of chakra in his covered eye with his Byakugan. Why are you building chakra in your right eye, Councilman Shimura? What do you have hidden there? The head of the Hyuga clan asked sternly. Fine, yes, I ignored the pathetic order to dissolve Root. It was a bad decision because we need an organization that can do black ops missions that are completely off the books, shinobi that will do anything without question, without their emotions getting involved and restricting them from doing what needs to be done. Our current official Anbu are weak and pathetic because they let their emotions rule them, even if they suppress them during a mission. Anbu Kader Yugao Yazuki is a prime example. Shinobi should be nothing more than tools or soldiers for us to command without emotion or a conscience. In fact, it is not just the Anbu that is weak, it is all of our shinobi that are weak because their emotions control them. The pathetic will of fire that has been preached since Hashirama's time as Hokage is the source of this village's weakness. So yes, I worked with those two idiots and Orochimaru to kill Hiruzen and destroy Konoha so that it may be rebuilt and made stronger, one that could take over and rule the other villages and countries of the elemental nations. Banko Mitarashi was a threat to this plan due to her immense hatred for Orochimaru. Since she stumbled upon the meeting of Orochimaru's minion and Myroot and read the contents of that missive, she needed to be disposed of, even under the pretenses of a mission to eliminate a threat of the powerful unaffiliated shinobi. Danzo said with immense venom. Danzo Shimura, you are hereby arrested to stand trial with your chakra sealed. The feudal lord commanded only for Danzo to scoff and use the body flicker jutsu to vanish. Find him. Put him in the bingo book, wanted dead or alive. Every shinobi present vanished as well to begin their search, however, Tsunade, the feudal lord, and the two remaining elders remained. Tsunade and ruler of the land of fire, glared at the advisors. Now, what do you two have to say about the charges now levied against you? We surrender. Both elders said in unison, knowing that they were caught and had no way out. Good. Now, if you want to avoid the death penalty that is usually involved with high treason, you will tell us everything. I am do mean everything. Tsunade said sternly, cracking her knuckles as a show of seriousness. I quite agree you will still get life in prison, maybe even home arrest for the rest of your short lives. However, hold anything back and we will be making an example out of you in the form of public execution. The Fire Lord grins. Needless to say, the old fossils sang like canaries and spilled every dirty little secret they knew, from Danzo's plans to the truth behind the Uchiha massacre, the plans to turns to get a hold of Naruto and turn him into a perfect emotionless weapon. Loyal only the three of them and their successors to protect the leaf and eliminate our enemies when the plan to take over the elemental nations was put into motion. What they told Tsunade and the feudal lord was so outlandish, they had Inoichi Yamanaka in to use his family's mind-walking techniques to verify everything they said, and once it was, they were detained in a cell for the night to make sure they weren't retaining any information. The top of Hokage Tower. It was high noon of the next day, and the entire village had gathered in the front of the Hokage Tower for Tsunade's coronation. Everyone was in a good mood, it seemed like everything was turning out for the better. Well, most people were happy. Sakura was still mourning the loss of her blonde teammate and source of reassurance and light. Ever since Naruto had died, she's felt lower than dirt. She'd been reflecting on all the times she hit him for simply asking her out after Sasuke rejected her, all the times he encouraged when she felt useless or discouraged. She missed it more than anything now, especially with Sasuke being in an extremely bad mood and him being even more antisocial than usual. Hinata, while she found her reason to fight, was still recovering from her injuries during the preliminary rounds and grieving the loss of the love of her life. What Hinata's reason for living was quite simple. Kiba's heartfelt and dead serious confession of love, even knowing that she'd always loved Naruto and would never let go of his memory, he'd work hard to win her heart and help fill the void of motivation and love. He'd even help her look for any hint that his rival in love might, no matter how small the chances were, that the knucklehead was still alive, which was her real reason if they were both being honest. That didn't stop Kiba from keeping his word and being there as a constant source of encouragement. Man, this is such a drag. A new Hokage means we'll get the results of the Chunin exam soon, Shikamaru groaned. Oh, buck up Shikamaru, even if you do make Chunin, it's not like we wouldn't stop being a team. Our parents would raise hell if they broke up the second generation of the Inoshikachu formation. Ino said confidently. That's not what I'm worried about. It will be even more work and more will be expected of me, it'll just be so troublesome. The Nara said with a sigh, knowing full well he showed enough skill and tactical thinking and leadership during the exam and invasion for a promotion. We'll work even harder next time so we all make Chunin. We really need to up our training to make up for the loss of Naruto and every other shinobi we lost in the invasion. Choji said with determination. Naruto, I still can't believe that idiot was killed. His defeat of Kiba and Neji was impressive, even if he did fart in Kiba's face unintentionally. I can only hope that wherever he is that he's happy and in a better place. The blonde girl said solemnly, getting nods of agreement from her teammates. Do you think that there will even be a Team 7 after this? I mean, from what I heard, Sasuke was already being trained by Kakashi sensei, and Sakura was talking about becoming a medical ninja, wasn't she? The Akamichi asked a relevant question. That will depend on Kakashi sensei, I suppose. Whether he takes Sasuke on as an apprentice, drops us completely, or agrees to take on some from the reserves, even if that would mean more teamwork exercises. I'm actually hoping that I can talk to Lady Tsunade about studying under her. Sakura said with a false smile. Sakura? What happened to you? You look like you haven't eaten in a while or even had a bath. Are you okay? Ino asked frankly. Yeah, have you been sleeping alright? No offense, but you look and smell like shit. Kiba said, walking up while supporting Hinata with her arm over his shoulders and his arm around her waist. Kiba, that's rude. Hinata reprimanded. Hello everyone. No, it's alright, they're right. I haven't taken care of myself lately. I know it's been a little over a week since he died, but I miss him so much. The Pincat started sobbing with Hinata wrapping her arms around her. I miss him too, Hinata said solemnly. I treated him like garbage. I hit him when he tried to cheer me up after Sasuke turned me down for a date or when I felt useless on missions. Now I'll never be able to make it up to him, Sakura cried. Sakura, Ino thought while Hinata just held her, holding back her own tears. Normally the Hyuga heiress would have wanted to severely injure the Pincat for her abuse, however, seeing her honestly remorseful for her actions, she decided to comfort and work towards befriending her fallen love's teammate. Come on Sakura. We'll visit the memorial stone later to pay our respects. I'll even put the flowers on my tab at my family's shop. But right now we need to be respectful to the new Hokage being ushered in. Ino said quietly. Sakura nodded as she stood up with Hinata supporting her and Kiba rushing to support Hinata. Ino smiled but looked up to see fireworks being launching, signaling the beginning of the inauguration. Ladies and gentlemen of Konoha. Thank you for joining me on this auspicious day. Today we swear in the 5th Hokage. She is none other than Tsunade Senju, granddaughter of the first Hokage and one of the legendary Sannin. The feudal lord shouted to the village. The crowd roared in applause. Everyone cheering and celebrating the rise of a new Hokage and the re-establishment of the security that brings with it. Even the more sorrowful people were cheering. Tsunade took this point to step, fully dressed in her Hokage robes and hat with a smile. Thank you, good people of Konoha. It's an honor and privilege to return to the village and take up the mantle held by the greatest heroes this village has ever seen. I will honor all of them, including those who didn't make Hokage, but those who gave their lives in service of our great nation by doing everything within my power to keep this village safe, even at the cost of my own life. The people of Konoha roaring in appreciation and celebration. What they didn't know was that things were going to change. Tsunade was going to dissolve the civilian council, and with the remaining village elder facing complete house arrest for the rest of their lives, only the shinobi council would remain. The village was about to become a proper shinobi village once again. The academy was going to be going over a severe overhaul. Now, before the feudal lord and I dismiss you for the day, there is something that has come to my attention that, quite frankly, has me livid with most of you. The 5th Hokage started only to be interrupted by the only person she truly answered to. What are you doing? What has the village done that has you livid, and why wasn't it brought to my attention last night at the meeting? He whispered in her ear. My apologies, but with Danzo running off and the coinciding problems that lead to him fleeing, I didn't get the chance to bring it up. But allow me to tell you along with the village. She whispered back before turning her attention to the village after getting a slow nod from the man beside her. It has come to my attention that my grandmother's clan, the Uzumaki's history has been removed from the academy curriculum. Not only that, but before his death, one of my own family was treated like he was something he wasn't. I feel it is high time you all learn that you celebrated the death of possibly the last of my family, one Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox. You treated him as if he was the fox itself when he was nothing but the jailer. She shouted, causing the crowd to erupt in denial and disbelief, which only pissed her off more, while the clans and Rookie 11 were wondering where she was going with this. Quiet. Stop and ask yourself this question. If a kunai is sealed within a scroll, does that scroll become the kunai? The answer. No, it does not. So how was Naruto Uzumaki any different? To top it off, well you practically worship the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, you fools failed to see the resemblance between him and his son, who he had no choice but to seal the fox within. You were abusing and ostracizing the son of the Yellow Flash and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, the Red Death. Therefore, you were spitting on the fourth second's legacy and memory. Once again, the crowd was divided into two groups, those that lost family in the Fox's assault, who were in denial and disbelief, and the clans and Rookie 11 who were shocked and in awe. Well, they shared the disbelief of the people shouting out their feelings, it wasn't the same. They couldn't believe that they never saw the resemblance between Naruto and the fourth, it was right in front of their faces all this time, just remove Naruto's whiskers, and you were looking at a younger Minato Namikaze. The clans who knew Minato and Kushina were ashamed that they didn't help their friend's son at all. Tsunade, is this true? The feudal lord asked, barely keeping his anger in check at the village that would treat the child of their greatest Hokage like that. Every word. I will explain in my office shortly. The slug Sanin nodded, earning a stern look along with a nod in return before she turned to the crowd for the last time. You are now dismissed. Well, you are free to deny the truth, but no, I can and will provide proof to anyone who wishes it. Just know that any rioting will be met with detainment. With that, the two most influential figures walked towards the roof access of the building. Everyone else either stormed off or walked away to return to their homes to think over the revelations brought to them. Sakura, Hinata and the rest of the rookies who were close together all just stood there as Sakura collapsed to her knees with a blank look on her face. Naruto, the son of the fourth Hokage, and he held such a burden, so that's what that red chakra was that he used during our mission to the Land of Waves and during his match with Neji. Sakura said in shock, feeling even worse. Neji walked up with a sorrowful look. So, he did know what it meant to live with a brand that defined him. Indeed, he would have made a most worthy eternal rival if he was still alive. To have lived with such a burden and still had such a youthful outlook on life is inspiring. Rock Lee said in his usual loud voice. But Lady Tsunade is right, Naruto wasn't the fox, I know that better than anyone, being an aspiring weapons mistress. Tenten said with confidence. Everyone but Sasuke agreed with that point. HMPH, even if he was the fox, he's dead. He was a weakling anyhow, a complete waste of potential regardless of his heritage. I bet the Uzumaki clan were a bunch of weaklings, even if two of them married Hokages. They don't have anything on the uchiha. He said before turning and leaving to go train. Sasuke Sakura frowned. Did our time with Naruto mean nothing to you? Was what you said to him during the exams a lie? Let's go Sakura, Hinata, and those who actually missed the blonde knucklehead, let's go pay our respects to the memorial stone after we get flowers from my family's shop. Ino said, surprising harshly towards her supposed crush. Whatever, I've got training to do. Sasuke said unbothered and left to Team 7's training grounds. Such unyouthfulness, let us be off to pay our respects. Lee said with a frown, getting a nod from his fellow genin. Off to the side, no one noticed Jiraiya watching the genin once Tsunade started her surprise announcement, figuring Naruto would want to know what was going on. He was surprised that his student's former crush was beating herself up over how she treated him. However, he was pleased to hear they would have accepted his burden if he was still around, especially the cute panda bun-haired girl. I'll have to inform Naruto when I get back to Wave for his training. But I think I will stick around until Yugao's resignation is confirmed. He thought before making his way to Tsunade's new office. Hokage office. Tsunade and Mr. Shijimi were sitting in the office, the latter was looking extremely displeased. I cannot believe that this treated Minato's son like that. However, I would like to have proof of this sent to my palace. I mean all of it, Naruto's hospital records and blood tests that prove he's their son. Of course, my lord. I will gather all of that by the end of the week. Tsunade said respectfully. See that you do. The feudal lord said firmly. Now I must be off. Make sure my wife's cat is treated with care should she escape again. Of course, sir. Have a safe journey. The new Hokage bowed as he left. Damn, being all formal is a pain in the ass, Tsunade thought as she sighed before straightening out. Get me Yugao Yazuki. One of the hidden Anbu left to carry out her order. Shortly after, Jiraiya crawled through the window. So, Mr. Shijimi has left, huh? How'd it go? He said with a smirk. Oh, shut up, she groaned before glaring. And next time you climb in through the window, you'll find your way on a one-way trip to Wave via my fist. Okay, I take you, just sent for Yugao. He said with a wave of his hand dismissively. Tsunade growls at his dismissal before calming herself. Yes, she should be here shortly. I take you'll be leaving shortly after we are done with her. Yes, that's the plan, assuming I'm correct in her plans. He said in a serious tone, getting a nod from his former teammate. Yeah, I believe we're both thinking the same thing. Tsunade nodded before there was a knock at the door. "Come in." "You called me for Lady Tsunade?" Yugao said, dressed in her standard Anbu armor despite her resignation as she walked in. "Yes, it's time to discuss your resignation letter," Tsunade said before signaling for her Anbu to leave. Before they could continue, Yugao walked up to the wall to the left of Tsunade's desk and stabbed the hidden root agent. Damn that Danzo. Figures he'd keep his agents within the village even after being declared a criminal. "Thank you, Ms. Yuzuki." Tsunade growled and slamming her fist into the desk before once again calming herself. "Now then, is it safe to assume that you will be leaving the village to continue being Naruto's Kenjutsu teacher?" "Yes, Lady Hokage, but that is not all. I plan on working with him on missions, unless he has some other plan," the former Anbu said simply. Tsunade and Jiraiya nod, slightly surprised she'd take on missions with him, but considering their quick bond and what they saw when she was stabbed. "Alright then, I approve your resignation, however, I trust you not to reveal or pass on any Konoha secrets. If we do discover you have done so, we won't hesitate to send Hunter Ninja after you, do you understand?" "With all due respect, Lady Hokage, but with Naruto having the Shadow Clone Jutsu and A-rank Kenjutsu, not to mention him having the means to learn the Hiraishin, a jutsu created by your granduncle, Lord Second, and made famous by my student's father, Lord Fourth, I think you asking me to keep this village's secrets is a moot point," Yugao pointed out respectfully. "Well, that is true, as a former Anbu agent, you know far more than he does about the village's dirty secrets. Ones that could bring our destruction if they got out," Jiraiya countered. "Yes, I understand." She nodded, seeing their point. She did indeed know more than Naruto, who was just a genin before defecting. "I suppose you want me to inform Naruto to do the same. I mean not teaching the Shadow Clone Jutsu and Hiraishin to anyone." "That would be best, yes, both techniques are Konoha originated. The Rasengan, however, is technically his to teach as he wishes, since it can be considered a clan secret," Tsunade said professionally. "Very well, and what of Anko?" "By now those two are likely thick as thieves by now, considering their similar backgrounds as pariahs of this village," the Preplet asked curiously. Secretly she wanted Anko to stay in Wave and help Naruto, but she was still officially leave Kunoichi. Have her return for now. Should she desire to resign after what those old fossils did to her and the way the village treated her, I will grant it to her. The fifth Hokage with a frown. She really didn't want to lose one of her best interrogators, but also knew that it was the Snake Mistress's choice. "Very well," the swordswoman said with a frown. "Before you go, however, I would ask you to do me a favor. I promised him payment for the secret to defeating paperwork. Would you be willing to deliver it for me?" the busty blonde asked with a smirk. "Of course. I assume it will take time to gather the payment," Yugao asked, getting a nod in response. "That would give me time to say my goodbyes and pack up my things." "Very well, I'll have it ready by sundown," Tsunade said with a smile. "By your leave then, Lady Hokage, Lord Jiraiya," the former Anbu said with a slight bow and left the room. "You know Anko is going to resign as well unless he convinces her to stay here as one of his contacts, even if you plan on being one of his informants. Her past with Orochimaru will be a permanent stain on her reputation, even if she does leave the village," Jiraiya said seriously. "I know. And I won't blame her if she does resign. After all, I have no right to judge those who wish to get away from their past or the memories this village brings back," Tsunade with a frown. Jiraiya frowned at that, knowing she was right. "How do you plan to be his informant anyhow? Your Anbu protection is going to at your side the whole time, not to mention Shizune and her fierce loyalty to the village." "That part is easy, and with the promised payment, I'll include a message asking him to send me periodic messenger toads. Not to mention any major missions that we may need assistance on once he'd made a name for himself. Hell, might send him on a big mission to help get his name out there," the slug Sanin said with a smile. "I see the mission idea could be passed off as that, just be careful. Shizune is a smart girl, she'll start suspecting you if you request to be alone with him every time he's here," the super pervert said with a thoughtful look. "I appreciate the concern, Jiraiya, but I'll be careful," Tsunade with a small smile. She really did appreciate the concern, even if he was doing it because of his lifelong crush on her. "Alright. Well, I'm going to get some research in while I can. That Brad and Yugao will be on my ass to focus on his training, especially since I'm on thin ice with him for not being there as his godfather," Jiraiya said, climbing out the window to try to hide his depression. "Speaking of, he asked you who his godmother was back at the inn, didn't he? Who was it?" Tsunade said, trying to get her teammate's mind off his depression, not knowing she made it worse. "Makoto Uchiha," he said before he jumped out the window towards the hot springs, shocking the slug Sanin. It was then that she signaled for her Anbu to return and Shizune rushed in a panic. "Lady Tsunade. The shinobi clans are demanding a council meeting after your reveal." The fifth Hokage just sighed for what seemed like the 100th time that day. I guess I should have expected that. Very well, I do need to run something by them anyhow. With Yugao. The now former Konoha Kunoichi was heading to her usual hangout where she knew her two friends were waiting for her to hear the final judgment on her resignation letter. Honestly, she was sad to say goodbye to them, but she made up her mind to support Naruto in any way she could. She promised him to be his Kenjutsu sensei, and she intended to keep that promise. Yugao. Over here. Hana Inyazuka said, snapping her friend out of thoughts. She was a gorgeous woman with straight brown hair. She wears a ponytail unlike her brother and mother who enjoy the wild animalistic look, black slit-like eyes, and the Inyazuka fang tattoos on her cheeks. She wasn't wearing her standard Chunin outfit right now since she was technically on leave. She was wearing a tight-fitting muscle shirt and shorts with standard shinobi sandals. Hana, Kurenai. Thanks for waiting here for me. I didn't expect that meeting to go that quickly. The perplet said with a sad smile. It's alright. How did it go? Kurenai said with the same sad smile. She could guess what happened, and if she was right, it meant that there would be one less ice queen within the village. I got approved. I'm now freelance, like my student I told you about. The swordswoman replied. Well, I for one am happy for you, Yugao. If it wasn't for this mystery student of yours, you would have still been mourning. Hey, this Takumi gave you purpose. If I'm ever in wave, remind me to give him a thank you kiss. Hana said with a smirk and a wink. Oh whatever, it's not like that. I'm just teaching him Kenjutsu and he's literally half our age. Besides, he's already in an arranged marriage with the leader of Nadeshiko village. Yugao protested, not realizing the small blush dusting her cheeks. Yeah, okay. Then that blush on your cheeks is nothing then. Kurenai said teasingly before getting serious. But seriously, she's right. We owe him for getting you out of your slump. Bring him by sometime you're looking for work. We'd love to meet him sometime. She's right, make him strong for this betrothed of his. Those Kunoichi from Nadeshiko village are no joke. I've had a run-in with a few of them on missions. They're very strong. I hope you have someone to teach him something other than Kenjutsu because he's going to need more than that to beat their leader. Hana said in the same serious tone. I assure you, he'll be fine. Especially if things go as I think they will. The perplet said with confidence. You mean with Anko? Kurenai's eyes getting a nod from the former Anbu. You're right with what the village has put her through and what you've told us. I wouldn't blame her if she decides to resign. Besides us, Ibiki and Inoichi, there is nothing really keeping her here. Well, I better get home and grab what I need for the road and clean up my apartment. Yugao said, getting up, starting to feel uncomfortable. I promise I'll take care of Anko if she decides to go back to Wave. Alright. Take care of yourself. Keep in touch, alright. I'm sure there are messenger hawks you can purchase from the aviary. Hana said with a sad smile. If not, I might be able to convince Takumi to let me use his summons to keep in touch. I'll find a way. Don't worry about it. Yugao said one last time before walking off to her apartment. Once there she packs all her clothes, her weapons, maintenance materials before she stopped and looked at the picture of her and Hade one last time. Goodbye, my love, I'm going to pass on your sword skills to a worthy successor. I can only hope you approve my leaving the village. She said quietly before leaving the apartment and locking the door. Meanwhile, council chambers. The moment Tsunade walked into the council chambers was met by very angry clan heads, especially those close to Minato and Kushina. Lady Tsunade, care to explain why Minato and Kushina's son wasn't brought to our attention last night? Hiashi asked calmly, but his irritation was clearly seen by his clutching of his sleeves tightly. Aside from the fact that we had to deal with Danzo and the elders overstepping their authority. In truth, I didn't know until I reached my office after our meeting when I read my old sensei's journal. He left for future Hokage. I didn't think you would have appreciated being called back when it was already so late and already searching for the traitor. So while I did reveal Naruto's lineage in the heat of the moment, I don't regret it. I'm certain some of you would have tried to walk me out of it or were to be less blunt and brutal than I did. Tsunade said firmly. While they weren't happy, the clan heads understood her reasoning, seeing as how that's exactly what they would have done. Troublesome. While that may be true, your announcement may have the adverse effect of lowering our forces' already low morale. We can only hope that we are able to recover before the other great nations learn of our losses. Shikaku said before seeing Tsunade ready to send him on a one-way flight somewhere far away via her fists. Don't get me wrong, I didn't see the boy as the fox or even a weapon, however, the point stands that without him we've lost our deterrent, we are at a disadvantage should the other villages attack. We are lucky that Suna has agreed to renew their alliance with us after their joint attack against us with Orochimaru. Alright, our morale is low. What do we do about it? She asked in a huff. Oh, for Kami's sake, the village will bounce back, we always do. Hiruzen preached the will of fire was strong, and while I'm pissed that I wasn't made aware that the pup was Kushina's son, I doubt the loss of him and the old man will extinguish our beliefs. Tsun groaned, clearly annoyed by the melodrama. From now on, we ask that you refrain from pulling stunts like that in the future. As Shikaku said, we're in a fragile state and revealing sensitive news like that to the public will do more harm than good. Inoichi said respectfully. Very well. Tsunade nodded. Is there anything else you wanted? Yes, actually, we wanted to inform you that even with my clan's Byakugan and the Inyazuka's ninja hounds, we were unable to locate Danzo or his hidden base. Hiashi reported. Damn it. She said, slamming her fist into the table. Alright. Keep your search up. That old warhick knows far too much to be left alone. Dismissed. I might need to request Naruto's and Jiraiya's help in the search, and I know Naruto won't be happy about it. The blonde Hokage thought to herself as everyone started clearing out the room. Wait, there is one more piece of business that I require your attention. As you know, Jiraiya, Yugao and the unaffiliated shinobi by the name of Takumi were responsible for my return. Along the way, Takumi gave me information that each of you should know, the secret to defeating paperwork. As clan heads, I know you have your own to deal with on a daily basis. I believe that this young man should be paid S-rank mission for this information. And what is this secret? Choza asked curiously. Tsunade grinned and summoned a shadow clone, earning gasps from the council. However, Shibi asked what everyone asking themselves. How did this Takumi learn the shadow clone jutsu? He's Jiraiya's student with insane chakra reserves, ones that are comparable to those of the Uzumaki clan. She said with a smirk, getting nods of understanding. Jiraiya never cared what he taught his students, and neither did they as long as it wasn't one of their clan's secrets. Now then, all in favor of paying this shinobi S-rank mission fees for this information, raise your hand. Needless to say, everyone present raised their hand, earning a smile from the new Hokage, who looked to Shizune. Shizune, I trust you can make this notion to the mission payment office to get it processed as a rush order. Our delivery personnel is leaving at sundown. Yes, Lady Tsunade. I will make sure this is ready right away. The black-haired assistant said, even though she didn't quite agree with this. Why are we paying someone who isn't affiliated with us? Something is off. Before Takumi left, the two of them seemed to have grown close in the short time he was there, and I was unconscious for most of it, thanks to that slap. Makes me wonder if Lady Tsunade hiding something from me. She used to tell me everything. Alright, no, you're all dismissed. Just remember to keep searching on our traitorous warhick. Tsunade said, getting up to leave the room with everyone else following her shortly after. Sundown. Konoha gates. Yugao and Jiraiya were standing at the gates waiting for Tsunade and Naruto's payment. With them was Kurenai and Hana, who came to see their friend off. Remember, Hun, you're always welcome and have a home here. We'll keep your place clean for when you and your student come for work. Kurenai said with a sad smile. She's right, so don't be a stranger. I was serious about coming to Wave to see this student that caught your interest, Hana said with a teasing smirk. Oh, shut up, I told you it's not like that. You know it's too soon to move on to another relationship. Yugao said seriously. Both ice queens nodded at that as Tsunade walks up with Shizune, who was holding a scroll. The look on her face showing she didn't agree with any of what was going on currently. Tsunade didn't seem to notice, or if she did, she chose to ignore it. Ah, I see you have friends seeing you off. That's good that you have friends that care that much about you. Tsunade said with a smile before she turned to her assistant Shizune, give Yugao the scroll. Lady Tsunade, should we really give so much money to someone we barely know for simple information? The black-haired woman asked, clearly reluctant to follow the order. Now Shizune. This has been approved by the council. Do you intend on going against the council and make us liars who don't honor agreements? The slug Sanin reprimanded with authority in her voice. Yes, Lady Hokage. Shizune said meekly and defeated as she handed the scroll to the former Anbu, who took it with a nod. Thank you, Lady Hokage. Yes, I am very fortunate to have them as my friends. And thank you again for accepting my resignation. Yugao said respectfully with a smile, storing the scroll in her pouch on her hip. You're welcome. Take care of yourself and your student. I'll be in touch if we need assistance, either it be through Katsai or Jiraiya when he checks in with me. Tsunade said with a nod. We must be off, I sent word to Takumi we'd be there by morning. Jiraiya said with his arms crossed, for once not ogling the gorgeous women in the area. Right, and we should be there by then since we don't have civilians to slow us down. The purple-haired beauty said, earning a nod from the Toad Sage. And with that, both of Naruto's teachers gave a wave goodbye before to bounded off into the forest, while Kurenai, Hana, and Tsunade gave waves of their own, while Shizune scowled in the background. In the land of waves. While everything was happening in Konoha, Naruto and Anko were getting to know each other better, each telling themselves how they coped with being pariahs. AM even chimed in on her favorite pranks that Naruto pulled. She smiled at seeing her new boyfriend and his fellow pariah quickly becoming close as if they were brother and sister. She wouldn't be surprised if Anko somehow knew Naruto's mom. So what will you do, Anko? Yuga-sensei and Pervy Sage will be here in the morning. Naruto asked sadly. He really didn't want her to go. Well, I have to go back to the village to at least put into my resignation and apologize to Ibiki, Kurenai, and Hana before I come back. I know I could be your eyes and ears with Inti and I, but these past few days I've grown to love it here and have enjoyed our time together. She said with a sigh. Besides, before I leave tomorrow, we need to discuss your idea of turning this place into a haven for people falsely accused of crimes or wrongly treated by their villages and looking for a safe haven in exchange for defending the land of waves. I think that's something we need to talk to Tazuna and the city council about, not to mention the feudal lord of the land of fire, since Geto killed this lands. He said, showing his intelligence that he was hiding. Even so, we should iron out the details before we go before the officials. She said with a chuckle, earning a nod from the two in the room. Personally, I think that's a splendid idea. I'd certainly feel safer if we had our own defense force to protect us against the likes of Geto. However, I think you three should get some sleep. Your friends will be here early after all. Tsunami said, coming out of the kitchen having finished washing supper dishes. I suppose you're right. I still need to head to the fire capital anyhow to get control over my parents' financial accounts. I haven't had time to do that recently. Naruto said with Anko looking sheepish. Yeah, sorry about that. If it weren't for that bogus mission you would have been able to attend to that little errand. She said, scratching the back of her head. Oh, don't worry about it. I wouldn't have left while wondering what was going on with Yuga-sensei. Besides, it's been fun getting to know the real you after our first encounter at the Chunin exams. He said with a chuckle. He's right, I think we were all worried about the results of her resignation. We just have to wait till morning to see what's going on back in Konoha. AM said before yawning. Now come on, we have an early start tomorrow. Betting the hint, Naruto nodded and followed AM up to the room they started sharing since getting together. Well, they didn't do anything other than cuddle. None of the adults had an issue letting the new couple sleep together, knowing that Naruto wasn't ready to take that step, despite the saying shinobi old enough to kill, old enough drink, old enough to get laid. In truth, Naruto had a healthy or unhealthy, depending on how you look at like it, fear of women instilled into him, and somehow he knew that his betrothed, whomever she may be, would want her future husband to be as pure as she was likely going to keep herself. The next morning. Bright and early, Naruto was woken up by a knock on the door. Groaning, he pries himself out of AM's grasp and stumbles downstairs and opened the door. When you said crack of dawn, I didn't think you meant that literally, he groaned. You've spent too much time with Kakashi. You've grown to expect people to be late. Yuga said dryly. Yeah, come on in, but be quiet, everyone is still asleep. The former blonde said, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. Geez, you guys couldn't be a little late. I should sick my snakes on you. Anko said in an irate tone. The swordswoman laughed a little. You never were a morning person, my friend. The snake mistress grumbles and lays on the couch trying to stay awake with Naruto plopping down next to her, showing the two teachers just how close the two have become. They didn't say anything about it, seeing as how they were both still trying to wake up. A couple of hours passed. Jiraiya and Yuga take the chance to get a little rest before they started their day, but they were woken up by Inari, Tsunami, and Tazuna coming downstairs. I see everyone is here, well except for AM and Tucci, but I expect them to be up soon. Tsunami said with a smile. I'll get started on breakfast. Tazuna looked at the swordswoman and asked in a firm tone. I take it your resignation was accepted without issue, meaning you're free to go where you please. Yes, and I have gotten formal permission to teach Naruto from Lady Tsunade, the new Hokage. She replied with a nod, easing his worries. That's good. Though I think you may wish to get another outfit, to people may be wary of you, well, you are dressed as an Anbu minus the mask. Tsunami said from the kitchen. I suppose you're right. The former Anbu mused aloud. I'll need to find more permanent living arrangements as well. Well, I'm grateful for you putting me up during my visit. I do not wish to wear out my welcome, not to mention I can't exactly live with Naruto and the Ichirakus once the restaurant is finished. Why is that? AM asked sleepily before plopping down next to her boyfriend, resting her head on his shoulder. You'd be more than welcome to stay with us in between missions. It'd also help with Naruto's training if you're living with us. Something tells me that it'd be awkward. So I'll pass. Yuga deadpanned before smirking. When did this happen though? Already two-timing your betrothed Naruto. Oh, whatever, I haven't even met this girl. Besides, there is no guarantee she'll accept or be willing to partake in this arrangement. She might just fight me to fulfill the promise and already have a guy back home she wants to be with. Naruto groaned, not knowing that just meeting his betrothed would be all it took for them to hit it off. At least I know AM will always be there for me, just as she always has been. AM was blushing by this point, but smiled all the same and snuggles closer to him if that were possible without her getting into his lap. Yugao nodded and smiled seeing her student happy. Don't be so sure, those Kunoichi of Nadeshiko village value honor, hard work, and strength. Something you already have in spades. You'll only get stronger by the time we're done with you. Jiraiya said simply. I'm surprised you were considered by them in that case. The black and red-haired teen deadpanned. Correct me if I'm wrong, but peeping on women in their most intimate moments and leaving your godson to fend for himself for the first 12 years of his life isn't very honorable. Then again the peeping is what got me into this mess. The Toad-san just sighed. He knew he had a long road of redemption ahead of him, but he didn't know how long Naruto held grudges. Anko merely smirked, she was liking the real Naruto. He appears to be done taking people's shit and wasn't afraid to tell them what he thought. She then realized that she should ask about what was going on in the village. Hey, what happened while I've away? Did anything happen with that confiscated letter I gave to Ibiki? Actually yes, Danzo is now on the run while the elders are under house arrest, all of the crimes and schemes have been brought to light. Unfortunately, that also means that Naruto and I may be called on to help with the search for the old Warhawk. Other than that, Tsunade revealed Naruto's heritage and burden to the public, almost causing a riot. He said before looking at his godson. You would be pleased to hear that most of the genin are sympathetic to you holding Kurama. The only one who seemed to be too arrogant or care was the Uchiha, calling you a waste of potential and your clan weaklings, obviously not knowing the strength of your clan. But he doesn't know it took a combined force of 3 shinobi villages to destroy their village, and not without suffering massive losses. Anyway, your former teammate, the Pinket, was really beating herself up for how she treated you. In fact, it looked like she hasn't been sleeping well or even eating. She looked even thinner if that was possible. The Hyuga heiress was looking better, even getting more support from her Inuzuka teammate, who from what I could discern, has feelings for her. Even the Yamanaka snapped at the Uchiha for his comment about you. So Sakura has been beating herself up since my death. Hinata and Kiba are getting along better, Sasuke is being the bastard he's always been, and both his fangirls are starting to see it. Then again, Ino's always been the type to stand up for people who can't defend themselves. I can see her lashing out against Sasuke for badmouthing me, especially if her friend is hurting over it. One of her few redeeming features. Naruto shrugged. Almost sounds like you admire the Yamanaka heiress. Anko teased, earning another shrug from the former blonde. I'll admit she's attractive, and while she berated me when I dissed Sasuke and never hit me other than that one time in class, she was still a fangirl that didn't take her career seriously. That fight and tie with Sakura is proof of that. He said nonchalantly before seeing AM slightly worried. Don't worry, I don't want anything to do with girls back in Konoha. Nor do I see myself wanting anyone other than you and maybe this girl I have to fight at some point. In Hidden Cloud Village. An 18-year-old silver-haired dark-skinned woman wearing a gray business blazer with a red-trimmed mesh armor and gray skirt that went down to her mid-thigh and gray heels with her hair tied up in a bun, sneezed, causing her to drop the paperwork she was carrying for the Raikage to sign and assess. Damn it, who's talking about me? I know the Raikage isn't that impatient and I don't have many friends. She said, gathering the scattered papers with a sigh, choosing to ignore the shiver down her spine, as if she was going to meet someone who will be very important to her soon. Back in Wave. You realize you just jinxed yourself, right kid? Tazuna said with a grin. Whatever, Naruto said with a sigh. Breakfast is ready. Tsunami called from the kitchen, getting everyone to sit around the table. You can discuss what you were talking about last night over the meal. And they did, Naruto bringing up that he wanted to establish a security force for Wave to prevent the likes of Geto from taking advantage of the land once again and protect the people from rogue ninja that would prey on them. Anko added that since Danzo was on the run, he was also a threat to Wave if he wanted to lay low, that is if he didn't go to Orochimaru, since they were in league with each other. However, while everyone knew Naruto was sincere about wanting to protect Wave, they knew he was worried about AM and Tucci the most. Well, your idea has merit, there are only 3 of you here officially, and one of you has a big network to manage. Even if Anko does return here after resigning, that's only 2 here at one time, especially since we know each of you intends of taking independent work. We'll need to find a way to get more shinobi here. We'll bring it to the city council once you have bigger numbers that agree with this idea. In the meantime, I suggest that at least one of you stay behind when the others leave. Tazuna said thoughtfully. I suppose that's agreeable. Naruto relented. We'll be fine, Naruto AM said, kissing on the cheek, easing his tension. Well, I should get going. Ibiki and the girls are probably worried about me. Anko said, standing up and stretching before putting on her trench coat. If all goes according to plan, I should be back here in 3 days. I hope everything goes well for you in capital. Be careful in Konoha, unlike me who is declared dead, you leaving is going hamper your reputation even more. Stories will likely circulate that you are returning to Petamaru to reveal village secrets. It could hamper your resignation. The former blonde said seriously before being pulled out of AM's grasp and into a hug with his head being buried into Anko's ample breasts, causing him to blush up a storm. "You're such a cute kid to be worried about me, but I'm not worried about my reputation. As long as my friends and little brother believe in me, I'll be just fine." She said full well that he was getting flustered. At least AM was taking it in stride, even if she was annoyed about having her boyfriend ripped away like that, but was laughing at his flustered state. Finally, she let him go and walked out the door. "Alright, I'm out of here. Take care of him for me everyone." Anko Yugao sighed, but had an amused smile. "Anyways, Naruto, you and Jiraiya should get going. I will stay here to protect the house while you're gone." Naruto nodded in thanks to her as he got up and went to get ready to leave after giving AM a kiss on the cheek and saying his goodbyes for now. 1 week later. After successfully gaining access to Minato's and Kushina's accounts with little trouble due to them leaving strict instructions for their vault to be sealed and only gained access from the one person who shared their blood. Jiraiya shook his head in amusement, stating he should have known they'd resort to blood seals, although if he had to guess it was Naruto's mother that insisted on it due to her not completely trusting the village to bleed their savings dry for the good of the village. Naruto laughed sadly, really wishing he could have met her since he heard they were so much alike. Anko got to and from Konoha within 3 days. A day to get back and drop off her resignation letter, a day to approve since Tsunade was accepting it, get packed, say her goodbyes to her friends and supporters. They all have a big going a dango feast along with a lot of sake, leading to the reason why it took 3 days to return to Wave, she needed the night's sleep off her hangover. However, before she left the next morning, Tsunade reluctantly asked Anko to take a mission scroll to Jiraiya and Naruto, a request for help to find info on Danzo, and if possible to capture or kill him. Anko accepted the task, stressing that the fact that the black-haired teen wasn't going to be happy but will accept the mission since he knows he can't be picky about the missions he gets. While Naruto was away though, Yugao and Anko fought off minor bandit attacks who thought it would be an easy mark, not knowing there were shinobi living there. They didn't even get past the bridge since Yugao and Anko took turns watching over the key access position for trade and commerce. So needless to say when he got back he wasn't pleased. Everyone was sitting in Tazuna's house getting ready for supper while AM was trying to calm Naruto down. "Take it easy, they were only lowly bandits, that's the reason Yugao stayed behind. None of the villagers were hurt, they didn't even get close to the house," she said while hugging him. Naruto's eyes were flashing between red and blue, with his whiskers thickening and thinning at the same time, even Beniham was rattling in its sheath. "I don't care. They targeted my new home, where my most precious person lives. I won't forgive them, even if they are taken care of. I swear the next bandit is going to get the same fate Kabuto did." "Naruto. Calm down. I promise you that we'll find more people that have nowhere else to go and get the defense force up and running as soon as we can," Jiraiya said worriedly. "He's right, one of us will always be here to defend the town until then. Mere bandits are nothing to us," Anko said, trying to sound confident but she was actually worried. She heard what happens when Naruto uses that sword of his in tandem with the fox's power, and with the sword shaking like that, it was as if it was demanding blood, reacting to its master's rage. Naruto nodded and took a deep breath to calm himself, as he did Beniham stopped rattling, causing everyone let out a sigh of relief. Naruto looked to Anko before. "How did it go back in the leaf?" The snake mistress eyes before pulling out a mission scroll. "It turns out she was expecting my resignation and had processed within a day. It only took me 3 days round trip because Ibiki and the girls treated me to dango and sake. However, on the way out the gate, Lady Tsunade gave me this scroll reluctantly to give you and the old pervert." Jiraiya sighed while Naruto took the scroll to read. After reading it thoroughly he sighed. "We did expect this sooner or later, but not this soon, it's only been a week since this Danzo has been on the run. With how much the Warhawk knows, he's a serious security risk. And with his private army and the time he'd had he could be anywhere," Jiraiya said dully. "I'm sure he's with my former sensei, but we don't know where to find that slimy bastard is hiding," Anko grumbled. "Any idea where we should start?" the black cat asked dryly. "Not a damn clue. However, it is almost time for me to meet one of my informants in Kumo. We should probably leave tomorrow," the toad sage said as he leaned back in his chair. AM frowned at the thought of having so little time with her boyfriend, but she knew what she was signing up for when agreeing to date a shinobi. Naruto seemed to feel the same since she felt him pull her closer with a frown on his face as he nodded. He did however have a sinking feeling that something important was going to happen in Kumo. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.